And we do have some breaking news for you. What you're looking at here, hundreds of leftist protests at the University of New Mexico. Turning Point USA was hosting an event with Tomi Lahren when violent protesters interrupted that event. State police actually had to go to stand in front of the ballroom doors for the remainder of the protest. Now, protesters remained outside, but they were banging on walls, shouting expletives, along with chants of "We don't want you here." Joining us now, Senior Secretary of Turning Point USA at the University of New Mexico, Jackson Mills. Jackson, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, Jackson, I went over kind of what happened here, but what is this hatred all about? This sounds like a really scary situation for Tomi. I heard she handled it like a champ.
Yeah, for the last part with Tomi, she did handle it like a champ. She took things very well, worked with the police very well. To call it scary, it was certainly scary for some, but definitely not for her. She did a very good job. To say for others, though, they were fighting the police outside, and the police at Turning Point did a really good job, and we were so glad to have them there.
Jackson, were there any arrests made? I mean, it sounds like they were pretty fired up.
Not that I heard of. I was really expecting some, though. I've been in contact with a lieutenant at UNMPD, telling him that we'd be glad to make any statements or help him if they need it. But from what I've heard, they're not making any arrests.
And of course, Tomi is a very, outspoken Republican, and of course, that's why we're assuming that those protesters were there. Does this? Do you think it would be different if maybe we had a young Democrat at an event and we had protesters coming from the Republican side? How do you think that would have played out differently?
Well, I don't think you'd see protests from us at UNM. If there are protests, they never get out of hand. If you go into the Student Union building right now, there are holes in the wall. You can tell where everyone was trashing the sub. But you would never see that from Republicans, especially not Republicans my age.
And I wonder, what do you think, maybe even if there were any protests at all, would there have been arrests and I think accusations made against anyone who may have been protesting a Democrat?
Oh, yeah. Not to specifically call out the UNMPD because they work with us perfectly. But at other police departments or law enforcement agencies across the country, I think you can look at how they target conservatives on a national basis and assume the same.
All right, Jackson Mills, thanks for joining us, and we're glad that Tomi is okay.
Yes, we are too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
real news
For real people.